Hey, have the cicadas taken
Hey,
you away
well,
yet?
that was quick. You know what? We haven't seen one.
You're kidding me.
No, I'm not. We've not. We've talked about that last night. I mean, it's supposed to be like north of us, and apparently they're all over the place in Nashville. I've not seen one, and I guarantee if I'd seen one, if they were flying around, Obi would be going crazy because he chases anything that flies,
This,
birds.
I mean, I'm looking out my window right now, and the air is just full of them swarming around the trees. It is unreal. The sound is so loud. I feel like we're having to yell at each other in our house. I don't know if you can hear them on this microphone or not, but
No, I can't.
it's,
I can't hear them.
it's the worst I
I don't know
recall
if I'm
since.
freezing up or you are.
I'm not sure. I'm not getting any messages saying it's me.
I'm not either, so I'm not sure. But mine looks really low up here, actually. So it's probably me.
Okay.
So
Yeah, this
yeah.
new computer, I'm not having as many problems. So, but anyway, it's the worst I've ever seen cicadas in in Nashville since the year I moved here.
Well, it's because you got two swarms.
Yeah, I mean it's
Yeah.
just real.
Would they say it won't happen again now until like I mean for when they first come together? It's I mean it's just a fluke because
Yeah,
one is every 7 years and one is every 13 years. So I can't remember, but it's like 100 and some odd years before it's going to happen again. So we're living in
yeah,
history making right now.
those are
And the
historical bugs out there.
now, and the people that study bugs are just they're just so excited. I was reading some of that. It's been fun.
That's
Well,
interesting.
this is exciting. Aren't you ready? Hey,
Yes,
Terry, glad you're here. This is going to be a great show. Website and password security. Woohoo! Yay!
this is definitely one of those subjects that I get ramped up about. I, for whatever reason, it's kind of weird. I don't know. It doesn't fit my temperament. It doesn't. I mean, I just can't understand why this is such an interesting topic to me, but it really is. And so here we go. We're going to talk about it. Um, let's just jump right in. First of all, when we're talking about website and security, password security, we need to talk about like there's no definition of perfect security. Okay, there's no such thing as impenetrable or um, unbreakable security. Everything can be broken given enough time and with enough will and effort and resources. Everything can be broken. So what we're really talking about is reasonable security, right? Like the efforts that go far enough. Like it's the 80-20 rule. Okay, 20% of your uh, security efforts are going to yield you 80% of the results of security. So if you do just a few things differently than you might be doing them now, you'll see a drastic increase in the effectiveness of your overall security for both your website and your passwords. So the reason for that is because of the way that hackers think. Um, Hackers are lazy, and they're just bastards. What can I say? They're lazy bastards, and they don't. I mean, unless it's like the CIA or some government server or something that they're trying to hack for really high value target. If they're just trying to break into a small, medium sized business, then they're going to give it half a try, right? I mean, they're just going to they're going to get on the site, they're going to throw all of their easy attack software at it to see if they can crack it easily before they move on to the next target and see. They're just looking for low hanging fruit. They're looking for easy targets that they can get access to, quickly move through a database to see, are there any credit card numbers being stored here? Is there any personally identifiable information that might be valuable on the black market? Is there any way that we could take over this hosting server in order to use it to send out spam emails as part of our spam bot army, of servers? So they're not going to spend just a heck of a lot of time trying to crack your security, but they have statistically significant, like they know that for every site that they try to hack, for every password that they try to hack, there's a certain order that if they go in, they're likely to get a hit. They're likely to crack it quickly. The first thing we need to talk about is, I mean, they move through like a series of like an SOP, if you will, a standard process. The first thing they do is they try to guess the password, and they'll go through. Taylor, can you hear me?
Yeah. Is it that one? That's
Yeah,
the
sure. That one's fine. Um, I'm still kind of talking about how they think, but they go through uh, like a set of about 100 commonly used passwords, and these are passwords that they see being reused across the internet all the time. You just do a search of um, top 10 passwords of 2023, right? And there's a published list of like the most popular passwords for that year. Every year for the past, I don't know, 50 years probably. There've been, and it's usually stupid stuff like password, right? The password is password or password one or those kinds of things. So they'll just start with the stupid stuff first and catch a few people that were just really not even trying to protect their accounts. And once they get into those, then once they get into one, then what they'll try to do is reuse that password and try a whole bunch of other services that might be connected to your website or in your email inbox. If they've hacked your email inbox, they'll look and see who's his banker. Who does he do banking with? And there's a Wells Fargo email. Oh, well, now we know he works for Wells Fargo, or now I know he does business with Wells Fargo. So they'll go try that same password over at Wells Fargo and see how far that gets them. Right? Reused passwords are one of the biggest things that one of the biggest culprits with regard to making it easy for hackers to get to do real damage. I mean, you hear these stories of people that just use the same password for everything. It's like, oh man, if you get your email hacked, I feel for you, dude, because they're gonna own your life. I mean, they're just gonna own you, and it's not gonna be nobody's fault but your own because you reused an easy to guess password. So we're going to talk about some strategies for making better passwords and everything else, but let's talk about password managers. It used to be back in the day, not too long ago, 14, 15 years ago, we would teach a password clinic, and it just takes 5 minutes to learn how to create a secure password that's unique for a unique secure password for every single login that you have in amongst your websites that you have logins for. And it was a formula that we would teach, an algorithm, if you will, that we would teach that helped you pick specific symbols and letters and a strategy and a formula for creating a unique password. And it's still better than nothing. It's still actually really good. But since then, these password managers that are now out, these little software, it's a Chrome extension. It's a little standalone software that runs on your computer that fills in, the autofill stuff on your computer. These actually can be even better because they're making use of longer passwords that are truly more randomized. In other words, it's not following a formula. It's not following any rules for how it's created because, the problem with the formula is it's great. It'll create unique passwords for every single login. But if somebody guesses your formula, then they can still get into every single site that you log into because they've guessed how to create the password based on your formula. So these password managers, and the one I'm thinking of, right off the bat is LastPass. That's one of the most popular. There's another for who's really popular for Windows machines called RoboForm. There's OnePass. There's many, many different ones, and they're all really good. Some of them better than others, and sometimes they run deals and things. Our company has settled on LastPass as being the standard for our business because they have business accounts that allow us to share passwords among each other, internally, without ever having to share the password in the clear, without ever having to, send it as a text message or put it in an email or chat it to somebody in our inter-office chat. So it makes it really secure that way. It never leaves the secure environment. And we have the ability to control access based on who's employed and who's not at any given moment. So if somebody up and quits today, or I have to fire somebody, I can go in and immediately revoke all of their privileges so that they can no longer access their passwords or the accounts that are associated with those passwords. So it provides a very quick way of managing security, because anybody who's been in business very long at all knows that one disgruntled employee, given 5 minutes, can do a world of hurt, on their way out the door. So, it's very important to control those things.
And I'm gonna just jump in here too.
Yeah, good. I feel like I'm talking too much.
Yeah, no, you're the one that knows more about this than anybody. But I'm gonna jump in here and say hello to Alyssa, that's here today, and also to Marie, that's here. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. And the other thing I'm gonna say, here's another issue that we run into a lot, is people don't know who controls their Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, YouTube channel. They don't know who controls it. Somebody set it up and they have no idea who it is, and they don't know the passwords. They don't know how to get in, and they want to utilize it. I mean, that's huge. So that's the other part of this. Is part of the security is make sure you own your own stuff. Somebody sets it up for you, make sure they give you, they set it up in your name with your email. You can go in and change the password. I mean, these are things that you need to do to make sure that you have ownership of all your stuff in social media. So I just want to throw that out, because to me, that's part of password management.
No, it absolutely is. It absolutely is. So I want to move beyond the strategies for creating good passwords and managing those passwords. Check out LastPass. Check out those different ones. For very little money, you can get a personal account for them, with all the bells and whistles that do all the things, and you can use it on multiple devices. They have family sharing plans to where you can share passwords among your family for Netflix and Hulu and whatever else that you need to share passwords for. Our family uses it as well, so it's been one that's been really good to us. And still, you hear stories in the news about how LastPass was hacked. Well, when you start understanding what was hacked and how it was hacked, you realize that they didn't gain access to just a whole lot. And they certainly didn't gain access to people's accounts and logins and passwords because of the way that they work. So the security models on them are pretty sophisticated and well worth the investment of $20 a year or whatever it costs to have. And then you don't have to remember your passwords, and any of your devices automatically have your passwords right at your fingertips. And it's just it's probably the best way to do it right now.
Even on mobile.
Yes, even on mobile.
Because you got an app. That's the other thing,
yep.
Which I love, because, everything's already in there. And I don't know about y'all, but, I get kicked off mobile all the time. It says I got to sign in again. I got to do this again. I got to do that again. And I can get into my LastPass really easily and get in there. So,
well, let's talk about
help. I've been hacked.
What happens when you get hacked? Because this is a very typical story. We used to get it a lot more than we do now. For the clients that we manage, when we manage their website and all of that, we've had a really successful track record, knock on wood, for quite a while now, for a number of years now, where we've not had a single site that we've managed that has been hacked. So that's that's just because we take security like this stuff really seriously. But what happens when you get hacked? And let's talk about this from the standpoint of like a personal account versus your business website and that kind of thing, because they're slightly different, the steps that you need to take. But the first thing you got to do is understand, what did they gain access to, right? If somebody just guessed your password and got into your account through a password hack, what can they see? What access do they have? And then you're going to make a list of all of the things that you got to go change now, right? So it could be that you need to change. Not first thing is you're going to change your password, right? You're going to get in there and change that password as quickly as possible to something secure and robust. But then you may need to look and see, did they access anyone else? I mean, was there other information in that system that was personally identifiable for you or for anyone else? And if we're talking about a business system, like maybe they hacked your MailChimp account, well, now they've got access to all the names and phone and email addresses, rather, for your entire client list that's been imported in there. So that's valuable to the black market. And technically, you have a responsibility to inform your customers that your MailChimp account was hacked and that you have reason to believe that the client, that your list was downloaded and by a nefarious actor and somebody who hacked the site. So you need to let them know that. There are definitely laws and things about how to handle being hacked when it's in a business context, and personally identifiable information that isn't yours might have been stolen. So you'll want to do some research on that and find out what the law has to say about what your duties are to inform those people who might have been affected by a breach, by a hack. If it's your website, somebody has defaced your homepage or defaced your website. They've stuck malware script or something on the homepage, and so people who are visiting your website might be fooled into thinking that they need to fill out a form or click to some other place, and suddenly they're no longer on your website and they've wandered off the deep end into dangerous territory. This happens frequently with people, and so the first thing you need to do is probably pay someone to go in and clean up the mess. Somebody who is experienced to look through the code of your website on every single page and every single plugin and every single little place where malicious code likes to hang out, where they place it, to look for it, remove it, and test the site to make sure that it is again secure. So to improve your security and all of that is just not worth trying to do it yourself. You need to pay a professional to go in and do it for you. And you get points if you hire somebody to go do that for you. If there's ever a question about how somebody stole a credit card number from your site, and you can show that you've done the right things according to compliance to the rules, then you're establishing a paper trail that shows that you were acting in good faith to do everything you could, again under that definition of reasonable, that you're doing everything you can to secure your website and the information that's stored in that website or those accounts that were hacked. So you want to establish that. If you hire somebody to help you do it, then you're bringing in an expert. Speaks volumes about your attention to the matter and taking it seriously. So definitely a good idea to involve someone who's an expert.
Carter, I'm going to ask a question to you. This is my question. How much does it cost normally to get somebody that's just to hire someone to do something like that? Do you know?
Yeah, it really depends on the size of the mess and the kind of hack that it was and the type of system. I mean, it can vary quite a bit. So there's not like a normal price, really. If you have a WordPress website that got hacked because of a plugin that wasn't updated or something, and they came in through a backdoor, through a code, rather than through a password hack, then they're going to drop malicious code throughout your site, and it'll propagate. So with it, if you find it and remove it, you go back the next day and it's back again because you didn't get rid of the root problem, and it just kept re-adding it to your website. And you can play that battle for weeks before you finally break down and hire somebody. But to get help to do that sort of a thing, it's usually an hourly basis, and I've seen anywhere from $30 an hour for someone overseas to do it, to like $150 an hour for a reputable person in the States to do it, same job.
Yeah.
So, and that just, and some of them will offer a guarantee. If it comes back in the next X number of days, we'll go in and remove it for no additional charge, that kind of thing. And there's sites out there that can help with that exact thing. Your first line ought to be talk to your hosting company. Oftentimes your hosting company has support that they can offer you because they know their systems, they know where the hackers like to hide the stuff and how they access websites on their systems and all of that. So that would be the first thing, would reach out to your hosting support and say, help, I've been hacked. What can you do to help me recover from this? And they may have a backup of your website that they can throw up really quickly that eliminates the problem while they're improving the security of your website, so that it doesn't happen again.
So here's Terry's story. Her website was hosted at GoDaddy. Hackers stole the domain and the website, completely took it over. She had to send a passport to GoDaddy to prove that she was the legal owner. She now has, and we haven't talked about this, two-factor verification on my website to protect it.
Yep.
Yeah, so let's talk about two-factor.
Yeah, it's a pain in the butt. It's just like another step when I'm in a hurry and somebody's waiting for me to get information out of an account and I've got to go log in, and then, wouldn't you know, it's asking for two-factor authentication this time. So I got to stop and do that and wait for the code and enter the code and get, but it's absolutely an improvement over single-factor authentication, which is somebody guesses the password and they're in and they own it. They own the account, they own you. So that second factor, whatever it may be, whether it's a text message or an email or a phone call, or a lot of them are starting to use the biometrics on your computer, right? The little touch ID on a Mac computer, they're starting to use that now, which is a biometric second level of defense, which is very secure. So, things like that. But essentially, it's a second way of proving who you are before they let you in. And I've even seen three-factor authentication.
I gotta tell you, when you said that about the identification with your finger, I was thinking all those shows that take your eye out, so you hold it up,
right?
Retina scans and cut your finger off. Luckily, we're probably not all got anything anybody wants that bad. So
you're not going to do that for a MailChimp list.
Yeah, that's the good news, right? Right. And here's a Marie Brandy loves LastPass. Yay!
Yay! I'm glad to hear that, Marie.
Yeah, we love it too. So let's talk a little bit about domain hosting considerations, because really what they're really wanting to get to is the server, which is
that's a primary target. Yeah. Absolutely. For some kinds of hackers, right? I mean, you've got different kinds of hackers. You've got those who are looking for PII, personally identifiable information, that they can harvest and sell on the black market. Then you've got people who are looking to turn your server, where your website is hosted, into an email server farm, or add it to their server farm or their bot farm, where it's just a whole bunch of slave servers that are sending out hundreds of thousands of emails per minute, to spam people, spoof people, scam them, phish them, just basically bad actors.
Right.
But they use servers like yours. If they can control your website, then they can control the email that website sends out, because every server has the ability to send and receive email. Not every server, but many and most do. So, they're just looking to control your box to make it part of their bot army. And that's another kind of hacker. So domain hosting considerations, you absolutely get what you pay for. The $8 a month hosts that are out there, it sounds great. And you think, man, I'm saving money. Let me tell you, you get hacked and you contact their support to find out what they can do for you. And you find out you are truly orphaned. I mean, you are well and truly on your own. And that's not a fun place to find yourself. And it's certainly not something that, if you're running a legitimate business, that you want to be scrambling around for 5 or 6 days while your site was down, and you didn't find out that your site was down, until 3 weeks after it was hacked. So, we're talking a month now that your site has been defaced and could be defrauding other customers who are visiting your site. That's just not a position you want to be in. So you really do get what you pay for. What I look for in domain hosting now is support almost more than anything else. I want a host or hosting company that understands exactly the kind of website that I'm wanting to host with them. If it's WordPress, then I want a WordPress host, someone who just specializes in nothing but WordPress. That's the environment that they understand. All of their support personnel are experts in WordPress. If I have something happen to my WordPress website, their support is going to be able to jump on a call, and we're going to have a very quick conversation that's going to be fruitful, give them direction on what to do to solve my problem for me. And I'm willing to pay a little extra in order to have that. Your business website is ground zero for all of your business activities. And you cannot afford to have it hacked for long. So looking for hosts that specialize in the kind of site that you have is, I think, crucial. And making sure that they've got a level of support that can help you restore your website if it does get hacked. And most of them, if they have that capability, will absolutely advertise it and tell you what that entails.
Yeah, and I like the double-blind backups. So if one server goes down, they still have it. Yep. I mean, there are a lot of things like that, and I totally agree with that. So I got nothing else to add there. So let's talk about being proactive. What do? We know we got to change our passwords. All right.
Yeah.
What things do we need to do?
So it's common to think that changing your passwords frequently, like for your bank or whatever, you go in every 6 months and change your password, that makes it more secure. It really actually doesn't, because of the way that these hackers do what they do and hack, try to guess passwords. Changing your password frequently actually doesn't really do a whole lot in terms of increasing the security of an account. And so I get frustrated with services that make you change your password all the time, because they're laboring under a false understanding of the math of it all and the statistics of it all. But that's okay. But you absolutely want to make regular backups of all of your content. So when we're talking about your website, we do them daily. We do daily backups, and we go back 30 days on our websites. So if a site is hacked anytime during a 30-day period and we realize we need to roll it back to a period when it wasn't hacked, we have a 30-day window to find that point and get that done. We use monitoring software that tells us when one of our websites is being pinged really heavily. And by pinged, I just mean that somebody is on the password screen or the login screen trying a username and different passwords over and over and over again as rapidly as they can, right? That's what's called a brute force attack. And we have software that notifies us to let us know that that's occurring, and we can throttle that. In fact, we have automated systems now that throttle it for us, that prevent people from trying to log into a website unsuccessfully more than a certain number of times before it puts them in timeout. So it slows down the hackers. And when the hackers are getting slowed down, they realize this is not easy, and I'm lazy and I need easy. So I'm going to go find somebody else to pick on. Those are all things that you want to do. Employee security training. There's some great services out there. Webroot is one that I think has brilliant training that it can offer to your employees. Depending on the kind of business you're in, you may have different requirements. But if you're storing personally identifiable information or financial information, then you actually have a requirement to train those employees who have access to that those credit card numbers or that personally identifiable information for customers. You have an obligation to make sure that they have a basic level of training for how to handle that content, how to handle that database, how to transfer information out of the database to provide to someone else who may need it. Basic security information about phishing attacks and attempts, and how social engineering, attacks where someone will pretend to be a customer and will email the front desk or call the front desk and say, hey, I'm in a real pickle here. I've got this situation. Can you please provide me with my information, this, and this, right? And fool someone in the office into thinking that it's a legitimate request for information. They may pose as an employee or pose as the boss. We've seen that in our business quite a few times. People pretending to be Taylor asking another employee, hey, I'm on the road and I can't get this information. Can you please send it to me right now? I need this quick, hurry, and making it seem urgent. And thankfully, our people haven't been fooled by that, but they get more and more sophisticated. We haven't even talked about AI and how AI is making it easier for these attackers. It used to be that most of the people who were doing the phishing attempts were overseas. I mean, it just statistically speaking, nothing to do with anything other than the fact that seems to be where most of those attacks and farms were located. And their English wasn't all that good. And so oftentimes you could just tell from the email, this is spam or this is a phishing attack or a spoof because, the grammatical content was just so poor that it was easy to spot. But now people are using ChatGPT to write their scam emails for them. And they sound great. They sound professional. There's no spelling mistakes. There's no grammar mistakes. It sounds really legitimate and urgent. And so, we're seeing a lot of improvement in terms of the quality of the spam and the attacks because of AI.
So one of the things that we put in place, Tina is our bookkeeper, and she's the one that always gets hit up, that somebody says they're me. So her deal is like, okay, I'm going to hang up and call you back. And so she hangs up, or if it's an email, she will call me right then and say, did you send me this email? And of course I didn't. She goes, yeah, I didn't think so. Okay, thanks.
Yep.
So that's a pretty easy way to fight it.
Yeah. It's good old two-factor authentication. It's reverse two-factor authentication.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's really important moving forward because, I mean, some of the biggest hacks that I've read about in the past 3 years have happened because of social engineering, where a key employee in a particular role in a business who had access to something without realizing it gave that access to someone who was a bad actor. And that bad actor slipped in and was able to wreak havoc for months before anybody figured out that it had even occurred. So it's very important to make sure that you have policies in place. Never share a password in the clear. If you can share a password through LastPass with another team member who also has a LastPass account, you can share it, and that password never leaves a secure place. You want to make sure that your data is secure while it's being transmitted from your website, like via form, to a place on your website where it's being stored. And you want to make sure that if you are saving credit card numbers, and there's no reason to do that anymore, all of the payment processors now have solutions to keep all of that information on their servers instead of yours, which makes PCI compliance a breeze, comparatively speaking. Even if you're doing e-commerce and big e-commerce stores, you don't have to store credit cards on your servers anymore. So just don't. Make use of Stripe or some of the other payment gateways that handle all of the collection of PCI information that way. And the last thing I would say, because I know we're over time, is if you're a business and you're collecting credit card information and you're using a digital system of any sort, you want to have some kind of cybersecurity insurance in place. It's usually very inexpensive, and it can be added on to the rest of the kinds of business insurance that you get from your provider most of the time. They'll have a cyber policy that protects you in case you are hacked, in case somebody does gain access to, other clients' information or customers' information on your systems. And that just is a level of insurance that makes sure that you don't get bankrupted because somebody stole a credit card from, for a customer of yours that was on your server.
So the only thing I want to add to that is you really do get what you pay for when it comes to hosting. I've had people tell me that our hosting is just ridiculously expensive. And I'm like, yeah, you think that until you get hacked. And then, all of a sudden it's very little money to make sure your business stays up and running online with that. Because we have a lot of fail safes in there. So, that's a big thing. And the only other thing I want to say is, hi, Chuck. Glad to see you here. Glad you're here, man. Oh, so that was good, Carter. And Spark Live is also released as a podcast on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, Podvine, or your favorite player. And I want to stop a minute right here and let you guys know that we're actually merging with another company. We haven't come up with a name for it yet, but this podcast will be called Something Else in June.
We do have a name for the company. We don't have a name for the podcast.
For the podcast, yeah. The company is Future Now Marketing. We have merged with Good Marketing Group as of June 1 is the date. And we're all becoming Future Now Marketing, but we haven't figured out what we're going to call the podcast yet. So stay tuned. Hopefully we'll know by the end of the month.
One of the real goals, I'll just say, is that we want to focus more heavily on AI-powered, human-centered, but still AI-powered marketing for small businesses. We want to look at the future. We think the future is here already, and there's ways of making use of the technology that's out there. And we want our podcast to focus on a lot of those things for you.
Yeah, I totally agree. So next week, we're going to have some video marketing strategies, engaging your audience on YouTube. And we're going to have a guest, Jonathan Sanders, who does our video and videography and editing. He will be here, and we're going to have some fun talking with Jonathan next week. So until then, hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.